You can press record.
Okay. Alrighty. So let me share my screen. I keep on thinking I'm going to get better at Zoom, do you know, like organizing all the different bits and bobs, but it never actually really happens. Does anybody else have those issues? Like they keep on thinking, yeah, I'm going to be fine with Zoom, and then it just doesn't happen. Okay. You can see my screen okay? Yep, cool. All right. If you have questions, just stick them in the chat. Ben will answer them and remind me if we need to come back to them. So today, the learning objectives, we're just going to go through setting some goals for trials and then some ideas for our activities, go through some of the tech stuff around how to set up the devices with TeamViewer, which is my favorite go-to IT nerd stalking method, and then just how to back up and share files and just some of the tech tricks that we like to use when we're doing remote trials with people. So where does it all sort of start? So I guess we would encourage people, if you haven't done a device trial before, to go to the Liberator website and just look under products and device trials. On that website, you'll see that there are lots of different options you can do. We also have a 1 hour sort of on-demand learning module you can work through in your own self-pace, and it has lots of links to different documents and tips and tricks that can help you sort of figure out how to do a device trial and where to get extra support and assistance. So one of the things that sometimes people can get a bit confused about is the different device types. I know I sometimes get confused with everything that's there and all the different options that are available. The reason why this is important to know your hardware versus software is because that sort of impacts on some of the programming that you do and how some things can actually support you. So for example, if you have an Accent device, it's a pimped up Windows tablet. And so therefore you would be using the PASS software that you can download onto a PC. That works very differently to the NovaChat and Rugged devices, which are Android tablets. It's like the whole Apple versus Android, you know, it's like, I've moved from one to the other and it doesn't work. They've got very different, sort of same, but different. There is similar vocabulary that can go across the chat devices and the Accent device, and that mainly tends to be the LAMP Words for Life software. So for example, if somebody's using LAMP, they could have it on a variety of devices, but how you actually support those will be different depending on what hardware you've got and software. So I love a good acronym. So I've come up with this one, GASP, because this is how I sometimes feel about with trials. Sometimes I'm kind of like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I think it's really important when you're doing anything with somebody to have a clear goal in mind. And then once you've got your goal, you can come up with an activity and then thinking about the supports that you might need to be able to actually achieve that goal within the context of that activity. And one of the really important things is actually to practice. So actually to know, how do I actually do this? So actually practice doing it before you're in that embarrassing situation where you're trying to do something and it all falls on its head. Because you want to make sure that you're comfortable and so that you know what's happening. All right, so goal setting, it starts with assessment. So in your chat there, I had to bring in some nerd thing here somewhere. So you've got Grogu here. What is he doing? What could it mean? What are some of the words you might see? So just type into the chat, what do you think these memes mean? So when we do our assessment, a lot of the time we start with observing a person if they're minimally verbal. More drink, absolutely. He's got his coffee. I love it, Belinda. Look, yum, help, help. I'm done. Yep. This, tired. Oh, yes. Hallelujah, Jessica. Tired indeed. Up. Yep, definitely. Pick me up. Don't like. Could be. Absolutely. Stop. Itchy bottom. Want that. Yep. Cold. Yeah. So see, there's a variety of different things that we could interpret from watching this person. And this is part of our assessment. Go through and observe what they're doing think about the context of who this person is more. And then if we know the person and we know that Grogu is obsessed with the Mandalorian and food, you can then sort of go, oh, okay, well, he's probably wanting food here. He's probably, you know, wanting to follow somebody here. So it might be want, it might be help, it might be up, as in carry me. So if you know the person, think about what are their nonverbals telling you? What do you think it could mean? And then what's the simple word that could be? So if we put this into a client context, I have a little boy that I've worked with on and off for a couple of years now. And in his referral information, they had a problem at home because he kept on smashing the TV. So he'd go up to it and he'd start banging it because he wanted it on. And he couldn't turn it on himself. He had trouble with the remote, didn't really understand how that worked. So he would smash the TV, he'd bang on it and then break the screen. This was a huge issue for his family, as you could imagine. So banging on the TV, what do you think it could mean? I want to watch TV. I hate the TV. We know this child, it was not he hated the TV. The TV is broken. Sometimes the TV was broken because he'd broken it, but turn it on. So usually it was a request for him to turn on. So actually one of his first words we identified for trial was actually TV, and that was what mum wanted. So instead of having on or help, she was like, actually, can we just say TV, because he's going to want to say TV. And that was okay. So that was a word that was identified by this mother as something that we could use as the symbolic representation of his behavior. Another one, he would go and open the cupboard and start pulling food out, looking for a specific snack. I mean, this is kind of me in lockdown, let's be honest. And it could mean, I'm hungry, where are the chips? Again, what are some of those symbolic representations we could have for that? This is a big one, crying in an activity. Has anybody ever had a referral for a child where they just cry in an activity and they're just like, oh, they hate doing everything, they just cry, and it's like quite pathetic and sad when you see that? Anyone? Yes. Kira, thank you for the nod. Yes. So some of what could crying in activity mean? Yes, thanks, Sarah. So dislike this, I'm bored, I could be in pain. Stop, please, go away. So the little boy I was just in a session with before this, he started crying 45 minutes in, and it was yeah, I'm done now, you're boring me. And for a 3-year-old, I'm like, 45 minutes telehealth, that's pretty good. And what word did he want to tell me? Stop, finished, I need a break. Walking out of the classroom is a big one. A lot of teachers say to me, oh, they just want to try and leave the door. They just want to leave. They bang on the door. What does that mean? It could mean, I hate you, teacher. It could mean, I don't like my peers. It could mean, I need a break. I want to play. If you're at home, it could be, where is the dog? I want to play with the dog. So again, thinking about what's the environment, what's the context of this person, what's our symbolic word we could make that. Toilet. Yeah, it could be toilet. And you would get that discussion from having that with a parent around, what do you think it means? You know, if they could say that word, what would it be? And parents are usually pretty good at saying, oh no, this behavior means blah. So when we think about setting goals for trials, so trials are usually short term. This is normally something that we want to be able to achieve in a 2 to 3 week period of time. So we don't want to have significantly high achieving goals. So those NDIS ones of, I want to communicate so I can participate in the community and have friends, are not that realistic for a 2 to 3 week trial. That's a long-term goal that will be achieved after 10 years of fairly intensive therapy, I would say. So if we look at the functions of communication here, you can see that there's 3 main sort of groupings that, this is a document from Saltillo, which is our parent company. One of them is wants and needs. The second one is exchange of information. And the third one is social closeness and etiquette. What you tend to find is that wants and needs are sort of the earliest communication functions that come out, and they're the easiest ones to sort of help teach as well. They're also a lot of the ones that cause to those behaviours to happen early on. So if you have a child that might have some behaviours, I would say probably the wants and needs that they need met are probably to protest, to get help, or to direct an activity and to feel some sort of sense of personal achievement and interaction with another person. So if you look at the meanings here from before, the examples I gave, I want to watch TV, I hate it, it's broken, turn it on. This is a wants and needs. It's either requesting an activity, requesting help, or directing an action. So these are kind of, if I'm thinking about a trial, I generally tend to think about the wants and needs, pragmatic functions, because that's where I'm going to get the most sort of concrete examples that I can use in their daily life. So I'm hungry, where are the chips? Again, that's a request for food. That's a request for attention. That's a request for assistance to open the packet of chips. Bored, stop, go away, I need a break. That's a protest. That's a rejection. So already you can start to see there's a couple of words we need to teach. We need to teach a help. We need to teach look or something. We need to teach assistance, like help, and a protest, stop, finished, break. Some ABA therapists that I know have programmed into some kiddos' devices one hit button that says go away. I don't personally like sticking in a full button saying go away. I prefer to teach them to say stop or break or stop that, go, something like that. A lot of the time with adults, I'll teach them in an initial trial to tell me go, and go could be make the TV go, make the music go, I stand up, walk out of the room, I walk right back in. But they've learned that power of the word go makes the funny lady walk away. And that can be quite empowering. When we talk about collaborative goal setting, the goal attainment scale is actually the one that has the best evidence for measuring small incremental change. If we're doing a trial and it goes for 2 to 3 weeks and we're working in a population of intellectual and or physical disability, we know we're not going to get massive gains in 2 to 3 week period of time. So you need to make sure that you can actually have really clear and measurable objectives that everybody is sort of on the same page for. The research sort of indicating how positive GAS goals are indicates that most of the power of why it works comes from that discussion you would have with the collaborative team members. So me saying, oh yeah, we'll work on the goal of help without having that discussion with the party that's involved. So parents, grandparents, carers, nannies, teacher's aide, Uncle Bob, I don't know, whoever is in that person's life and is a stakeholder, you have to have the discussion with the stakeholder so that they can start to see, okay, where are they now? So at the moment, he goes to the cupboard, he rummages through it, he makes a mess, he starts screaming, he throws things, he hits his head because all the chicken crimpy are gone. Oh no, wait, that was me yesterday. But you go through and you sort of think, well, that's what he's currently doing. He's not going to turn around and say, please, mum, go to the shops and get me more chicken crimpy. That's not going to happen now. You have to think about what's the next best thing. The next best thing is he doesn't scream, he doesn't throw things, he doesn't hit his head. So let's wind it back. So what do you think is achievable within a 2 to 3 week? Actually, what's achievable is for mum to actually see him starting to go to the cupboard, bring the device and actually help him to understand what he needs to say. The communication partner role is really important in a trial process. And I would encourage you to actually have this discussion before the device actually even comes to you. So all of this work happens before you have the device physically in your hot little hand. So we want to make sure that the communication partner knows that we've got some goals established. The goal is to turn on the telly and to actually make a functional request for food and to also get a break. So if there are goals, we need to identify what some of those barriers could be. What's a barrier to that? Or maybe he starts trashing the kitchen and mum's helping a sibling with a personal care activity or something, who knows? So how do we try and prevent some of those things from happening? We know that the child gets hungry when he comes home from school. So why don't we set up a situation where he can go and request a preferred food item at that time? We also want the communication partner to feel really empowered about monitoring that progress. So that they know this is actually something that's a small step in the right direction. And we want them to know how to use the system so that they can model and show them that this is actually a meaningful way of communicating. It's not just me using my words, me modeling verbal speech. Isn't that helpful to somebody that doesn't yet have verbal speech? And how can we create those opportunities? So Ali Moorcroft recently has published some things on her PhD on barriers for AAC and device abandonment. So I'd really encourage you just to Google Ali Moorcroft's work and to read some of her articles that came from her PhD. There's some really lovely things in there around creating opportunities and what to do to sort of set up successful AAC. I believe she's also doing a workshop through SPA, which might be good to attend as well. So one of the things I like to do with families is, well, let me move that up so you can see it properly, is to actually have a clear communication prompting hierarchy. So this is an example of one that we would use. This is from PRC, our parent company. And you can see from the beginning, sort of down the bottom here, you've got physical prompt, and it talks about hand under hand. So how do we support them with their hand to actually press the device? If you're looking at somebody with alternate access, your prompting hierarchy might be a bit different. So it might be about holding the switch there and actually, you know, tapping it against their head so that they know, oh, that's a physical prompt for a switch activation with your head. Or if it's an eye gazer, you might actually be using a little, like a, this is one of those things I should have pulled out earlier. Here we go. So you might use like a little colored square thing. So I've got some of these made up that are like little highlighted squares, and I can put them on a stick and I can use those to sort of highlight the cell that they might be able to actually identify. So you've got that partial physical prompt. So what does that look like for the person? And it's really important to have those conversations with the family and the stakeholders so that they know what the prompting hierarchy is. Okay, so first of all, we're going to do a physical prompt, then we're going to do a partial prompt. It might be at the elbow. I tend to kind of just tap them on the wrist, but it depends on what's going to work for that person. Then you would model on a device, you might give some choices, you might give a visual prompt, you might ask a question. Environmental cue might be sort of going, non-verbal prompt might be a expectant waiting, and then the pause might just be that, just sitting there and waiting for them to do it. So think about your prompting hierarchy and have that discussion with the family. This prompting hierarchy will help you then establish those incremental steps that you're going to take for establishing your GAS goals. So for example, with the one around, with a GAS goal, you only change one thing each time as well. So the whole point is you're only changing one thing. You're not changing and adding in extra words. You're not changing the location and the prompt. You only change one thing at each time. So for example, at the moment with hand over hand prompting, the child will request help in the kitchen when hungry. So that's our starting point. So our baseline is that if I grab the kid's hand and say help, you know, or eat, or whatever the target is, that's what he can do at the baseline when we start our trial. What do we think he's going to be able to do? So the less than expected, the next level prompt we're going to give him is modeling. Oh, you're hungry, or you want some help. That will be prompt number 2. With a visual prompt, it might be saying, and it might be a proximal prompt, you know, pointing to the device. And then, so from a clinical perspective, you also have to think about, what have I seen other children do in terms of their progression? What's a realistic progression? It's unhelpful if you get to the end of your trial and every single goal is +2. That tells me that you haven't set the goal correctly, because 0 is the expected outcome. So 0 is where we want them to be. You want them to get 0. If it's +2, it means you've made it too easy. And so that sort of comes with practice and trying. So you'll see here that the wow, much better than expected, is that with no prompting, the child will go in and say help when in the kitchen when hungry. And I should point out that this child is now a couple of years into his device, and he will go and get his device, go to mum and say help, hungry, you know, want X, please. He'll say want popcorn, please now. So he's doing really well, but this was his starting point. Another example of some GAS goals. This is one for an adult client. He's currently making an agitated noise when people are around him, and it's all a little bit dodgy. You can see here that they've actually put in the date. So this was the 5th of December last year. This was his baseline. The next week he got -1. So he was supported with models of 2 choices and given gestural prompts. So then he would select the preferred activity, and that happened a week later, maybe a bit later. And then the expected is that he'll make a choice of preferred activity, food, or whatever when given a gestural prompt. So you can see that there's a couple of different examples there of how you would write those. In the the link that we've given you, there are some articles and some more information on gas goals. So feel free to have a look at those and yeah, go from there. So that would be everything around, remember, gasp, that would be all around the goals. So we encourage you to do all of that before you do a trial, so that when the device comes, which let's face it, can be a little bit intimidating at sometimes. I'm not technologically great. So sometimes when devices come to me before I was in this role, before I was familiar with the devices, I was a bit like, what am I supposed to be doing with this? It's all a bit hard to sort of meld everything together. So then think about your activities, and this is all about the person. What do they find interesting? So we also have interest inventories, which we would encourage you to do so that you know what they really like. If you're thinking about a child maybe with autism or cerebral palsy, they might have different things that they're into. They could be into some tactile stimuli. They could be into auditory things. Lots of kids I know really enjoy watching cartoons in foreign languages. Don't know why. You know, there's been a couple of kids that enjoy watching Peppa Pig in Chinese, and you know, they might have Polish heritage, but they really love the sounds of the tonal languages. Some kids like looking at leaves in the sun. So you sort of think, okay, if the only thing we can engage them with is leaves in the sun, what are some other activities we might find in the $2 shop that might mimic that? That we might have, you know, some light flicking activities or stimulus that we could go and buy so that we can use that as a bribe to teach them how to communicate. Posting games, so Pop the Pig. One of the winners I had a year or so ago was just a box, like a gift box that I had, and I threw in some of those plastic beads, dress up ones from Spotlight that I'd had for a 1920s party, you know, like the loop pearls. I threw those in the box and then went and bought a couple of other cheap shiny colors, and the kids loved them. They loved putting them in the box, pulling them out, asking for colors, throwing them in the sink for water play. And they lasted really well until they fell out of someone's car and into a gutter, which wasn't great from an environmental perspective, but sometimes things happen. Creating opportunities for communication. We know that people that are minimally verbal and use AAC have fewer opportunities. So again, think about how can we create those opportunities. So if they do enjoy playing with, you know, posting games, how do we keep them manipulable so that they have to request a different color or they have to say want? And it might be a case of saying, right, we're going to work on want in the context of them requesting, you know, maybe a highly preferred snack item outside of a registered meal time. It might be their extra treat someday. We might get them to ask for individual M&Ms. Want, have an M&M. Want, have another M&M. As a primary reinforcer. It might be requesting want to give them a toy to put on a felt board, or it might be want to get another water balloon to throw. Typically opportunities have focused on requesting and labeling because it's really easy to say bubbles, get bubbles. So the more that you can sort of have vocabulary that can be used across a number of activities, the better outcomes you're probably going to have from a trial perspective, because you can say child learned to use word in 3 different contexts with 3 different communication partners in 3 different activities, and that gives you a little bit more evidence. So if you've done your interest inventory and sort of really come up with some activities that are quite helpful, you can then do some parent coaching through how to do that. So I can sit here in my end here with my bubbles, and I can role play with mum via telehealth. Hey, this is how we might use bubbles. And you might pull up the vocab, and we'll show you how to do that so that you can model using the past software or whatever software you're using. This slide are basically just some of the websites that I found helpful when doing telehealth with children that use devices. The AAC Language Lab has a lot of stuff that you can just download. If you are doing trials with us and you want access to that, if you are supporting clients that have our devices, we can give you a free code for that. Just contact your local consultant. Tar Heel Reader has some excellent books on a range of topics. iPad apps. Green screen is one I'm getting into at the moment. I need to go and buy some felt green screens. And I'll show you some of these at the end of the presentation when we get up to that implementation stage. Help Kids Learn is a really good one to have a subscription with as well, particularly for your switch kids. So I was using Help Kids Learn just in my session before this one with a little switcher kiddo, and he was clicking his switch on that end, and I was then manually making the screen go with whatever the activity was. 5 Little Mice or something like that. If they're going to be doing people games, singing songs, you can do that. You can, what we do know from a telehealth perspective, we know that if you're asking a mum to do an activity, so say, for example, you've coached a family, it could be a dad, you've coached them through, hey, I want you to go and play row your boat with them. And their opportunity is going to be to say more on their device. Get them to record that activity and send it to you. You need to provide feedback within 24 hours in order for that feedback to be as well taken on board. So some of the evidence around parent coaching has sort of been, if they're taking a video and sending it to you, the sooner and the quicker you provide feedback on that event, the more meaningful it is to the parent and the more likely they are going to give change. And I suppose it's the same for all of us if you think about it. If somebody gives me feedback on something I did 3 weeks ago, I don't remember what I did. I haven't a clue. I just don't have that long-term memory. If we've gone through and we've set our goals with the family and we've selected some activities that we think are good to go, it's now at the time where you're going to get a device. So if you get a device, if a family has a device sent to them, it can be really hard for them to try and figure out what vocabulary file do I need. And you can try and talk them through the phone. Press this button, press this button, press this button. It can be very confusing. And I know myself, when I'm trying to talk through some challenging operational commands of a device and I don't have one in front of me and I'm trying to talk them through something and they're not familiar with it, it can become quite a frustrating experience. So TeamViewer is something that we can use to remotely access devices. And Ben is going to take over from me. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. You want to let me host again, that'd be great. Thank you very much. Now, at the moment, I look a bit like a fighter pilot. I have cameras here and devices there. And so I'm going to do my best to navigate how this is going to look. I'm going to be sharing screens and it's going to be messy, but we'll give it a go. So as Leanna said, using TeamViewer or using any sort of technology to help set up a system when you get the device really comes secondary to all that goal setting, because you need the vocab that you're going to be targeting. So it's good to think about when using this type of tech, to think if it's beforehand, before I get the device, I'm going to be using pass software or chat editor software to help set it up so that when they get the device, I can flick them the file and then they can just load it up. Another alternative is you've been too busy or the device has come unexpectedly, which does happen, and suddenly the parents have the device and they're just looking at it going, what the heck? And this is a nice opportunity for you guys to dial in remotely with TeamViewer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with our chat devices, the NovaChat and the LR8s. I'm going to show you how to use the file sharing, but also TeamViewer on that, and then we'll switch across to the accents as well. It shouldn't take too long, and it's recorded, so you can go back and view it whenever you want. So I'll just load up all these screens, start sharing. All right. So first up was Chat Editor. Now, with Chat Editor, first thing you really need to know is it has to be the same version as the version of the device you get. If you're doing a trial device, it will be the latest version. So if you download the latest version of Chat Editor, you'll have no problem. Okay. So let's say you're looking at a WordPower file and you have a NovaChat 10 that you are supporting. We'll just bring that up on screen like this. And you've gone ahead and made a whole bunch of changes to this vocabulary, and you want to send it via an email so that the mum or dad can put it onto their device and load it up straight away. The process of doing that is we can connect our device via the charging cord to your computer. When you do this, you'll see the device will say transfer mode. You'll also see, eventually as it loads up, that a device will be connected. Now you might have to shut down Chat Editor and open it again. Just wait for that.
Welcome to Chat Editor.
You can see my screen, everyone, right? Yeah, great. So you see devices connected up here. So this is what you want to be able to see. So first up, we'll save it to our desktop so we can then email it. So you go library, transfer to file, you locate which vocabulary you're working on and press transfer, and you can choose to save it to your desktop or wherever you want. Now, the parents will also need to have downloaded Chat Editor, which they can do from our website. And you can see now it's downloaded to my desktop. You can email this file, okay? And you can see that it says the file name and then .ce. That means the Chat Editor file. These Chat Editor files have to be loaded up into Chat Editor only. And the way to do that is when you install Chat Editor, you will also get a little import folder down the bottom left here on your desktop, and you just drag it in there, okay? It might take a few minutes, but then you'll get a notification that, okay, you've just loaded in a vocab. Now, because I already have one in there, it's going to give me a different prompt. When the parents receive it, you need to talk them through this step, which is drag it to your folder, go library, transfer my resources, and then it should appear in here and they can just click on it and load it up, okay? This is if you've got, say, word power and you've done a whole bunch of changes before the device arrived and you just want to guide the parent into setting it up, okay? Another alternative is if you haven't done this setup just yet, the device has come unexpectedly and now the parents are looking at it and thinking, I can't do this. And you can go, never, don't worry, I'll come in, I'll swoop in and I'll connect to TeamViewer and I'll set it up for you. So we'll go through that process now. Okay. What you need to do for that is first of all, download TeamViewer from the internet. It's a free download. You can see I have downloaded and installed it right here. And after you open up your computer, this is what you will see. Now, you need to direct the parents to their device to do the following. I'll stop sharing my screen. Hopefully, I will be big enough. Okay. Now, on the device, you need to turn off kiosk mode. Kiosk mode is there to ensure that the client doesn't get out of the device into the apps and do all sorts of naughty things. So if you go to System, Kiosk Mode, and just untick that, it will allow you to press the main home button on the device. It will look different on each of our systems. On this NovaChat 10, it's this button here. Once you press it, you need to direct the parent to connect to the Wi-Fi, which is drag from the top, click on the Wi-Fi symbol, add in their Wi-Fi details. Okay. After you've done that, you can hit the app section on this screen. And if it's a trial device, you will have a quick support TeamViewer app available. If you don't have it for some reason, or if it's a device that's purchased, you can go to the App Store and you can sign in, download quick support for TeamViewer, and then just open it up. But after they're connected to the internet and they open up this app, they'll then get this code. And this code is what we want to put into our system here. Okay, so their code is 367138401. You can press connect. They will get a prompt asking if they want to allow you to connect. You need to guide them to press allow. Then all sorts of fancy things happen, okay? So they won't be able to see your mouse moving across the screen, but you'll be able to make all sorts of changes. So first up, we're going to go back into the NovaChat app. Remembering at the moment, this screen is what they're seeing on their device. Okay, we can make some selections. You can do some modeling on here. Okay. If you want to make changes, you need to bring up, like you would if you had the device in person, the menu bar, so you can turn on edit mode. Now, one disadvantage with using TeamViewer on Nova Chats is that to get up the menu bar, the parents need to first make the selection on the device, okay? The LR8s, you don't have to do this. You'll have an extra button that you can press, but on the Nova Chats, they will have to press the menu bar for you whenever you want to open up this setting. So once I've done that though, you can click edit mode, make a copy if you haven't already. Okay, and then with your mouse, you can just press and hold left click button, and you can see the process of creating buttons and editing and all that fun stuff. Now, there's a few other bits of support you can provide while you're in here. You can see on the top right-hand corner that I have a data logging symbol up. That means that every selection I'm making and the time of day is being recorded. You can turn this on with the parent's permission by going back into the menu bar, with their help, application settings, data logging, and turning that on. Talk to your consultant if you want to use realized language, this data logging stuff. We can talk you through how to set it all up. Okay, once you've done this and you're happy and you've set it up the way you want, you can just disconnect by closing your TeamViewer, or they can go out of their app and close their TeamViewer, and you'll get the same response. Okay, so I might just go ahead and do that. I'm going to exit out of the app, open up theirs, close it. Okay, right, and now I've exited out of that. You'll need to talk the parent back through into opening up the Nova Chat app. Okay, so that's two ways you can help out getting a vocab set up. There are other features we can do, like locking the device, using vocab builder with LAMP and Unity, all these other features. There are loads of videos, and you'll have your consultant in each state who you can talk to if you want further information about that. I think for now, a main takeaway is really, if you need to send the device directly to the family because of COVID and not seeing them, you can connect remotely, set it up, input all the goals which you've established beforehand, and then support in that way. Okay, so that is the chat devices. Looking at the time, I need to jump across to the accents. The process is very similar. I'll just go ahead and do that, close that down. Like I said, jet pilot situation after the okay. We'll stop sharing for a sec so you can see the accent screen. Now, on our accents, what you need to do is, again, make sure that they can exit the app. To do that, you know what? We'll share screen and do it this way. That's a bit better. So to know how to exit the app, you first have to go to the settings button and then go down to hide/show new voice. If that button isn't visible, then you need to go toolbox, main menu, enable integrated device and click on. It will cause the device to restart, but when you get back in, that option will be there. So if you are doing TeamViewer, so the family's gotten the device and now they need you to help them set it up, you will need to guide them through that. But once done, they can click that button and it will close the app and the desktop will be visible. Okay, on the desktop, again, if it's a child device, you will have TeamViewer available. So just double tap that. You'll also need to make sure the internet or Wi-Fi is connected. So on the accents, you can click the Wi-Fi symbol and you can connect, but you have to make sure that you hit the little keyboard button on the top right. Otherwise, you'll be wondering how in the world I'm going to type in a password without a keyboard. So do that. And again, you'll see they have an ID. You need to copy that into your team viewer. So I can look here, I can go 1604639 connect. On the accents, I'll ask for a password. So you can see down the bottom here, type that in, U2GB28, log on. Okay, just connecting. Now you can double click on the new voice software. And now you have control. However, you also need to make another change. You need to make sure that you are on the mouse control access method, not direct selection. So to do that, you need to go menu, toolbox, access method menu. Instead of touch, you need to go new point joystick and then mouse. Otherwise, they won't be able to see your cursor and your life will be very difficult. Okay, so now I can control their device. I can make changes. I can set up vocab builder, import the words from my goals that we've chosen. Again, there are videos on that, so we won't get into too much detail. You can set up data logging. It will be turned on when this graph symbol is white. To do that, settings, toolbox, review vocab menu, and data logging on. You can also set up the locking of the device through this method and change all the voices and whatnot. Okay, if you have, if you're setting up the device live while it's in front of the parents and you're at home in your computer, that was that method. If you wanted to do all your prep beforehand and then send a file to the parents that they can load up onto their computer, there's a different method for that. Okay, for this method, I will just close TeamViewer for a second. Yes, close that down. Excellent. So we just have the screen showing. Change video. Okay. To make your prep beforehand, you've set up your vocab builder, you have all your words. You can then save your file to your desktop as an MTI file and email that to mum and dad. That process is as follows. You go settings, toolbox, transfer memory menu, and you want to hit save one user area. You can locate the one that says current area. That's the one you're just working on. You can choose where you want to save it. In this case, it'll just be your desktop or my documents. Click OK, and it will save to there. You can then email that file to the parents. They will need to put that on a USB and then plug their USB into the device. When their USB is in their device, they can follow the reverse process, which is settings, toolbox, transfer memory menu, and load one user area. They can find their USB, locate their file, and load it up. Okay, so that's TeamViewer, and that is email file sharing. Another method is really just to have Pass or Chat Editor up on your screen and to do your sessions and modeling and teaching and training live with the parent. To download Pass and Chat Editor on our website, I would say the easiest way is just to type in Pass or Chat Editor in the search box. All right, I think I might look at the time. We've got 10 minutes. So I hand over to Liana to go to the last section, also just to go through any questions which may have arisen. I can see there's quite a bit of chatter going in the chat box.
Thanks, Ben. I think I answered most of the questions apart from the last one.
Yeah. All right. How do you get Move Voice to highlight the cells you're hovering over? Yep. Bring that up. So a few methods. This red outline is really helpful. To get that, go settings, toolbox, access method menu, and you really need this mouse or USB joystick set up. So normally it'll come as touch, and you don't have these other options. So if you go down to new point joystick and then mouse, you then get pointer settings. And under pointer settings, you can say highlight keys on or off. You can then go hide the cursor if you want, highlight settings. You can invert it so it's, I guess, black instead of white. You can do a whole bunch of other things. If the client has a favorite color, you can do that, whatever you want. But the trick is to change the access method inside path to the mouse and make sure you select manual because it'll automatically come as auto, which it'll make a selection just by hovering over the word. Just looking at questions here. Is it possible for the family to open the email with the attachment on the accent device and open it from there? Yep, you can do that. Definitely. You can just exit out of New Voice, make it get to the internet, sign up, open up Gmail or Hotmail, save it to the desktop of this one, and go into and instead of finding from the USB, you're just loading you're loading one from the desktop of the actual accent instead. So you can definitely do it through that way. That means you could probably, if they want to open up their email, once you have control of the device, you could probably do it all yourself for them if they've signed into their email. They trust you enough. They've customized icons with photos to people, then you send them a file for them. On top of that, yeah, if they have a file that they've already worked on and it's photos and whatnot, they will need to send you that first so you can modify that one and send it back. Oh, there you go. Nice. Okay, is there any more content you wanted to cover, Leanna?
No, I think that's good.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I realized there's 5 minutes remaining. I wanted to show you 1 or 2 activities, but did anybody have any other questions? And I can start showing you. Do you want to give me control, Ben?
Yeah.
To do this, we would be having a telehealth on a different device. Yes, you can't, Chris, you wouldn't be using the Accent as your telehealth platform. So in terms of equipment you require for a telehealth session, you need to have a laptop and an iPad with a camera and Zoom account, whatever. They need to also have a platform to watch it on. So that could be an iPad or a laptop or whatever, plus the Accent device. So yeah. Can customized vocab be used for different vocab sizes? If it's customized on WordPower 60, you would have to import across the pages from WordPower 60 that are customized into 140. It wouldn't automatically change because they're different files, different. So you would have to import across the vocabulary that they would need. The other thing you can do if you're migrating one person from file A to file B, you can put a toggle between the 2 vocab files on them so that they can just press one button to go back to their old vocab and then another one to go back to their new vocab, and that's a nice way to do that. Okay, so I did want to show you this. This is my new favorite thing to do via telehealth. Has anybody done anything with GoGo Speech?
Oh, haven't.
Okay, I am in love with GoGo Speech at the moment, people. It's my new favorite thing. So I encourage you to go to their website. And what I love about this, if I bring up my Zoom controls, you can download, they have these virtual sessions or in-person sessions. So there's a song suggestion and an PowerPoint. I've gone through and put my MinSpeak icons on it for the words I might want to target. So I can go through, look, what, and then please, hello. So if I'm doing a session with somebody and I want to prompt the family because they can never remember what the icon sequence is, I've gone through and actually put that on a PowerPoint already. So what I can do with this PowerPoint is I can play it with screen sharing like I'm playing with you guys now. And oh my goodness, the child has to tell me, go, we're going fishing, go fishing. And you can start doing modeling that way. And it goes to like that. The other thing I can do on Zoom, which I really love, has anybody been playing around with virtual backgrounds? So I can import all the different pictures, if you can see behind me, and I can use this with my head in it. So I can email the MinSpeak icons around before. Of course, my head's in the way, but I can do things like, so I could have the child say more, move on, more, move on, more, move on, more, move on. So do it that way. So these are some of the things that I've been using that I've been really enjoying just to try and get a little bit more engagement. Another thing that I like to do with children is to use the Tar Heel reader books. I did this one quite successfully with a little one the other day, look, and we were targeting like and not like. I like this, look, and a bug, and he was labeling the different things, bug, I do not like that. So you see, it's really easy. Look, I do like this, look, I do not like that. And you could do lots of funny pulling faces and things like that. With that child, we then wrote a story ourselves, and he told us Happy Mel, and we just looked on the internet for different things. We looked for his brother, we looked for a picture of his dad. That is not his dad, I can assure you, but that was the picture that came up and he was happy with it. So it's predictable chart writing, going through, finding the picture, and he's obviously happy was the target that he was using there, and 2-word utterances. So you can start to use a few things like that to do predictable chart writing. So I primed him with a PowerPoint about like, don't like, and then we went through and did this predictable chart writing. These are some things that I've been finding really work. With children with autism that are a little bit harder to engage, if you're thinking about kids that have a thing, so a little boy I know really loves Thomas, so I've been using this with him. So we get the GIFs. I've just downloaded the GIFs from the internet, as you can see, Cartoon Network. He then tells me turn the page, because this is how we normally would read a book. We would turn the page, okay, let's make it go. And then the GIF moves. So this is how I've managed to get turn and go in a story for a child that's at those earlier communication stages. So this is an example of how I would read a book online with a child to make it a little bit more interactive. Yeah, so I don't know, I found these quite helpful from a telehealth perspective. So Nicola, go speech. So go speech. Oh, Tar Heel reader. So Tar Heel reader. And then you just make your own. So read a book. That's the pen name for David Copenhagen, who's one of the main academics on literacy for AAC. So that's his pen name on Tar Heel reader. And Jane Farrell has a heap as well that are really good and really nice levels. So I realize it's 1 o'clock. So I know some of you probably have to get off and do things, but if anybody has any questions, Ben and I are more than happy to answer your questions.
Might pause the recording there as well. Yeah, that's right.